Greetings and welcome to another Pokemon 2019 or Pokemon Journeys anime episode review. This time I am talking about this series in its entirety, so let's get to it. Now I had to, of course, come up with a different style of review, since I am not about to summarize the entire series. What I decided to do is divide this review into 5 parts. I will talk about Ash, Chloe, and Ghost separately. How good were their respective storylines? What did they add to the series? How much did they grow or change as characters, etc. I will then talk about things I like and or hate about the series, / positive and negative things about it. Though I will exclude anything I already talked about in my looking back at Pokemon Journeys videos, which I made in preparation for this final and overall review. So please do check out those videos as well. The whole reason why I made them is so that this review does not have to be an hour long, and so that I can pace it better while making it more focused. Finally, the last part will be my overall thoughts and conclusions. So, that's what this review will be like. Now, without further ado, let's do this. This is, ladies and gentlemen, my final review of Pokemon Journeys. First up is Chloe. I love Chloe as a character. And yes, I am a little biased, since in Japanese, she is voiced by my favorite voice actress, Kana Hanazawa. But I really do love Chloe as a character, namely for 2 reasons. First, at the start of the series, and for a bunch of the early episodes, she was quite different from Ash's previous female friends / traveling companions, who took a liking to Ash almost immediately. They were all kind to him, even if they sometimes called him a brat or a child. And almost all of them were energetic and or positive. Most of them were also caring, and they cared and liked Pokemon. Chloe, however, was cold and aloof. She clearly could not stand Ash, and she actively acted kind of hostile to him. She also acted like this, but to a lesser extent with her family, namely with her father. Also, she did not like or care about Pokemon either, which is a far cry from pretty much all of Ash's other friends. From most characters in the anime, in fact. So Chloe felt unique, like a new kind of character for this anime, which is part of her appeal. The second reason why I love Chloe so much is that all these things I just said about her are not true by the end of the series, and this is due to the fact that she changes tremendously as a character. The character development and growth she goes through is nothing short of magnificent. She becomes kinder, more loving, and friendlier, not just to Ash, but also to Pokemon and to her father. She grows to care about Pokemon, and she becomes interested in them. She starts caring about her future, and she becomes more curious. It's this massive transformation that makes her such an amazing and compelling character to watch, especially since this growth happens slowly and naturally over the course of dozens of episodes. And of course, what triggered this change was Eevee. She is the one who began to melt Chloe's cold heart, which led to their quest of trying to find what Chloe wants to do and what Eevee wants to evolve into. the episodes where they meet the Evolutions and their trainers, which allow Chloe and Evie to learn more and more about themselves, which allows them to grow closer together and develop as characters, are some of the best episodes in this series. They are just such varied episodes, from their setup to the personality of the Evolution and the trainer in it. They were just such a joy to watch and very memorable. Also, it's remarkable that they made Evie such an interesting and unique character, considering that she is the fourth Evie to be caught by a friend of Ash's. At first, I was like, oh great, another Evie. But surprisingly, they were able to make Chloe's Evie stand out from previous Evie by making her be mischievous and curious, while also having an inclination for mimicking others. These traits made Evie fun and interesting to watch, and her more carefree and sometimes downright reckless tendencies made her a great foil to the more careful and reserved Chloe. So the interactions between them and how they played off each other made them endearing and enjoyable to watch. Also, I absolutely love that Chloe got to meet Dawn and Serena, who helped her grow and learn even more. Sadly, however, not everything about Chloe and Evie is good. I think that they were both underused. They definitely deserved a lot more screen time. Having Chloe not catch Galarian Ponyta still feels like a mistake. Sure, having Ponyta around might have detracted from Chloe and Evie's bond and growth, since there would have been another Pokemon that needed screen time and development. But I still would have loved to see Chloe catch Ponyta. Finally, having the series end without Evie evolving and without Chloe finding what she wants to do is just a huge disservice to both them and us, the audience. After they spent so many episodes looking for their answers, and after we spent so much time watching their journey unfold, after so much build-up, having their quest end on such an anticlimactic and inconclusive way just feels like a massive waste. But despite the rather lackluster conclusion to their story, it was still a delightful story that was worth watching and experiencing. And the two of them were no less amazing as characters just because they ended up in a less than satisfying place. Next up is Go. Now, there is no hiding the fact that at first I did not like Go one bit, and I absolutely could not stand him. I never got to the point of actively hating him, but I definitely disliked him. So much so, in fact, that I even made a video talking about why I think that he was ruining Pokemon journeys. I just think that at the start, Go was a terrible character. He was cocky, conceited, and full of himself, even though he was a rookie that had yet to accomplish or do anything. He hated working and interacting with others to the point that it felt like he actively just thought that he was better than everyone else, and as a result, he did not need them. He could succeed on his own. He was not kind or supportive towards his Pokemon, which was best illustrated when Scorbunny wanted to learn a fire type move, and Go straight up told it to give up and to just accept what it could do at the time. He had no ambition. Even when he wanted something, he would not give his all towards pursuing it. If it was something that he couldn't get easily, then he wouldn't even bother with it. He refused to dream big. He did not want to challenge himself. He was also methodical and calculating to the point that he almost felt like a robot, caring more about results and not so much about the methods he used to achieve said results. This is best illustrated early on when Pokemon were more like trophies to him. They were just meant to fill his Pokédex and nothing else. Also, the way he caught Pokemon without battling or bonding with them, and by the dozens, just got on my nerves. It felt like he had it way too easy, because all he did was just to throw Pokeballs at anything that moved. He basically did nothing, and yet he ended up with a bunch of Pokemon. This just felt like a big middle finger to all the work Ash and his other friends had to put into catching all their Pokemon. Also, Ghost Pokemon were essentially just the data in his Pokédex. After being caught, we would pretty much never see them and they would do nothing when we did. Also, he caught a legendary Pokemon before Ash did, which is something that I will never get over. However, like Chloe, Go underwent an immense transformation as a character, which allowed him to end up as a vastly different and more likable character. After enduring several tough trials, after being called out for his numerous flaws several times, after failing repeatedly, after learning from Ash, and after having his backstory revealed, Go grew to become someone more modest, earnest, and caring. He is no longer a jerk. He is no longer full of himself or conceited. He knows just how flawed he is, and he is actively working to become better. He now knows the value of teamwork, and he respects and values others more. He now strives for his dreams, no matter how much he needs to work to achieve them. He is now more caring and supportive of his Pokemon, who ended up getting more screen time and development, which made them feel like characters, like they mattered, and like they were a part of the story and of Go's journey. They were no longer just filler or data. Go also stopped catching Pokemon as often, though his captures still remained mostly effortless and lacking true significance. But at least they were less annoying and disruptive, since they happened much less. So pretty much everything that was wrong with Go was fixed by the end. Sure, he still has room for improvement. He is still immature at times, and he is quick to make a fuss and get emotional when things don't go his way. And he is still far from my favorite character. But there is no denying that it's impressive how he went from a character I disliked and that was ruining the series to a character that I do like and that is actually a bright spot of the series. So, Chloe and Go show that this series had remarkable character development. Now you can't talk about Go and Pokemon Journeys without talking about Project Mew, which became Go's purpose later in the series. I think that overall, Project Mew was cool. It added a lot of variety by having Go face different challenges involving several different Pokemon and characters. Almost all the missions were enjoyable and fun to watch. However, I think that the actual Project Mew was a disappointment. It felt rushed. After a slow burn of a first episode that was very interesting, the pace got turned up to 11 and everything ended quickly in the following episode with still a lot of questions left unanswered and with an unfulfilling ending that did not live up to the build-up, since basically nothing was accomplished. At least nothing tangible. The loose ends left behind and the promise of a greater reward later only have a value if there is a follow-up to this story. But who knows if there will be one. So such a lackluster ending just betrays all the time spent leading up to it. So just like Chloe, Go grew and developed wonderfully as a character, and he led several great episodes. But he was sadly ultimately undone by an awful conclusion to his story arc. Next, we get to Ash. Now, unlike Chloe and Go, Ash is not a new character that first appeared in this series. So he did not need to be introduced, nor did he really have to change, develop, or grow as a character. He was the same good old Ash that we know and love. However, he did have a few moments of character development, which is nice. He got a few extra shades to his character despite already having so many episodes under his belt. The first such moment was when he lost to Bee the first time, which made him lose confidence in the way he battles, thus forcing him to fight in a way alien to him, which costed him several battles. But thanks to Go, he recovered his confidence and the trust in himself, and he went back to battling his way, which allowed him to win all the way to the end. The second such moment was when Raihan told him that he just wanted to battle Leon out of admiration. Ash refuted this by exclaiming that he does not want to just battle Leon. He also wants to defeat him. He wants to prove that he is the strongest. The last such moment was in the final episode of Journeys and Aim to be a Pokemon Master, where he finally determined what it means, for him at least, to be a Pokemon Master. These are the only Ash character growth moments I can think of in Pokemon Journeys. So unlike Chloe and Go, there isn't that much to talk about when it comes to Ash and character development in this series. Though there is also not much to talk about when it comes to his storyline, which of course was the World Carnation series and defeating Leon. Since I have already spoken a lot in my look back videos about how amazing it was that he won, that he became world champion, that he got to face so many great characters, etc., etc., I will not bore you by going over all of this again. Suffice it to say that out of the 3 key characters in this series, Ash had the best storyline and the best finale to said storyline. Also, Pokemon Journeys was a great series for Ash for a lot of reasons. But since I have also discussed them all before, I will refrain from doing so again here. All I will say is that for Ash, this was one heck of a series. Now, before moving on to the next section, I do want to talk about Aim to be a Pokemon Master, since this mini-series is part of Ash's storyline in Journeys, and I have not addressed fully in previous videos what I think of this mini-series. I think that Aim to be a Pokemon Master was a huge waste of time, since most of it was just Ash and friends wandering aimlessly, encountering random situations involving wild Pokemon, and working together to resolve said situations. Most of what they did was not profound or important or meaningful. Outside of having Squirtle, Lapras, and the Pidgeot return, I just don't see what value this mini-series had. The entire point of it should have been Ash figuring out what it means to be a Pokemon Master, and whether he is one or not, and how much more he needs to do to become one if he isn't one. But these questions were all addressed in the final episode, and in a very quick, unsatisfying way at that. So all the other episodes were literally not needed. They served no purpose, especially since Ash did not catch any Pokemon, not even Latias, who followed him for most of the miniseries. So I think that Aim to be a Pokemon Master was just a waste of time that added nothing to Journeys or to Ash. If anything, it just sours them, since Ash becoming world champion after such an amazing battle was the perfect send-off for him. It was the ideal place to end. Aim to be a Pokemon Master ruined this awesome ending by adding a bunch of meaningless filler that added nothing important past the said ending. So it's like when a movie goes on for longer than it should, and it does not end on the highest possible note. Instead, it needlessly adds a bunch of extra stuff that just diminishes the strength and the meaning of the rightful ending. Next, I want to talk about a few additional positives and negatives about this series that I have not discussed before. At least, not in one of my look back videos. First, the music was amazing. A collection of fantastic tracks, both new and old, that made sure that there was always something ear-pleasing playing in the background. The old music especially deserves a mention for always enhancing the nostalgia of this series. Also, the opening was awesome, and I love that it was used for the entire series, just with different people singing it while giving it their own spin. The ending themes were all fun and catchy. Second, animation-wise, this series was all over the place. Sometimes it looked great, while other times it looked wonky. But for the most part, it was good. And the final episode of Ash vs. Leon had easily the best animation this anime has ever had. Third, fight choreography was also all over the place. Some battles were incredibly stale, repetitive, bland, and simple, while others were creative, cool, fluid, and awesome. Sometimes different people work on / oversee different episodes, and obviously not everyone has the same style and skill level. Plus, oftentimes, some episodes get more time dedicated to them than others. So it's understandable that quality may vary from episode to episode. But despite a few hiccups here and there when it comes to animation and the fight choreography, I think that for the most part, this series looked sharp, moved smoothly, and had a flair. Finally, the pacing was awful for the most part. It seems like they were in a hurry to get things done. I guess because they just had too much that they wanted to do with this series. Things that would take 2 episodes in previous series took only 1 episode in Journeys. Things moved way too fast sometimes, and they were over before we knew it and before they were as fulfilling as they should have been. A lot of the issues I have with this series could have been resolved with better, slower pacing that allowed things to develop and progress better, and to end better as well. This terrible pacing was only made worse by all the recap, both as entire episodes and within normal episodes as filler, since not only were things moving along way too fast, but they also wasted a ton of time that could have been used to slow things down and to give certain moments and events more time. Now yes, I know that the studio had some issues, which is why we got so much recap. But regardless of the reasons why it happened, there is no denying that it was detrimental to the series. Finally, it's time for my conclusion. I think that overall, Pokémon Journeys was a good series. A great series even. But it was a series held back by an incredible amount of poor decisions, bad pacing, questionable choices, missed opportunities, and wasted potential. There really is a lot of good in this series. Ash got such an amazing team. He faced so many great characters. He reunited with so many awesome characters spanning the entire history of the anime, both human and Pokemon. He got to become world champion. He got Mega Evolution. He got to do, experience, and see so many new and amazing things. Chloe and Go ended up becoming such great characters, and they were both a breath of fresh air as far as Friends of Ash go. They both got to embark on interesting and fun journeys that made them grow and develop in wonderful ways. This series also broke so much new ground for this anime by doing so many things that had never been done before, which made it such an unpredictable and surprising series. There is no denying that based just on its merits, Pokémon Journeys is a magnificent series and one of the best we have ever had. However, the awful pacing, all the time wasted on recaps, not having Ash catch more Pokémon, especially not having him catch a legendary Pokémon, not having him face all the members of the Masters 8 and the more amazing characters, having Chloe and Go storylines and in such anticlimactic ways, having Go be so awful and unbearable early in the series, not letting all of Ash's friends play a significant role, not having him use all his old Pokemon in battle, and not having any of them evolve, Mega Evolve, or Gigantamax, having aim to be a Pokemon Master be such a waste of time, and having it give Ash such an awful ending. All these things hold Pokemon Journeys back from being as awesome as it could have been. This is just such a divisive series, one split almost evenly between greatness and mediocrity. I honestly wish that I could call this the best Pokemon series ever, because all the good in it is just that magnificent. But I can't, since all the bad looms over it so menacingly. However, the bad does not completely drown out the good. So ultimately, this was, for me, a wonderful but extremely flawed series that was able to both delight and disappoint in pretty much equal measure. Finally, I just wanted to say that regardless of any misgivings I have with it, this is still a special series to me, since while it wasn't the first one I covered in this channel, it was the one that allowed my channel to grow to this point. So thank you, Pokemon Journeys, and thank you, my dear viewers and subscribers, for sticking with me throughout my coverage of this series. I hope that I can continue to count on your support going forward. But that's everything I have for you in this video. This is my last video for Pokemon Journeys. At least for now, since who knows, I might just need to revisit this series in the future. But until such a time, goodbye Pokemon Journeys and hello Pokemon Horizons. I will begin my coverage of the new series as soon as possible. I hope to see you there. But that's the video. As always, leave your own thoughts down in the comments below. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did and would like to see more like it, then please consider subscribing to my channel. I love Pokemon and I love making videos on both the anime and the games. Also, please consider clicking the links on screen so that you can check out more videos like this right away. Thank you very much for watching, and let's meet again in the next video.